the Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the Bliss Business Podcast. I'm Tullio Siragusa. Today, if you're listening, a guest didn't make it, but I want you to treat this as a gift because there's a topic that sits underneath every conversation we ever have on this show. It is the thing that makes performance sustainable, leadership human, and growth feel clean instead of corrosive. That is bliss. And I know the word bliss can trigger skepticism. It can sound like a luxury, like something you chase on vacation, or something you feel for 5 minutes after a great workout. Or maybe you think it's something reserved for spiritual people who have time to meditate all day. That is not what I mean. In business, bliss is a measurable state of alignment where people feel safe enough to tell the truth, connected enough to care, and empowered enough to act. Bliss is what you get when love stops being a slogan and becomes a system. Let me say that again because it matters. Bliss is what you get when love becomes operational. Now, when I say love, I'm not talking about romance, and I'm not talking about being soft. I'm talking about a decision. Love is a business commitment to the well-being and potential of people and the mission that they have voluntarily agreed to be part of, even when it's inconvenient. Love says, we tell the truth here. We will not humiliate people here. We will deal with issues, not gossip about people. We will hold a high bar and we will help each other through it. We will build systems that make it easier for humans to do great work. That kind of love is not fluffy. It is disciplined. It is protective. And it is strategic. And right now, it is urgent. It is needed more than ever. Because we're living in a moment where speed is accelerating and complexity is rising. AI is changing workflows, expectations, and competition. Remote and hybrid work has changed how trust is built. Cost pressures are real. Attention is very fragmented, and people are simply exhausted. In that environment, the old model, which is fear-based performance, stops working. Fear can produce output for a while. Pressure can create urgency for a while. And ego can create ambition for a while. But fear-based performance always comes with interest. The bill shows up later. It shows up as burnout, turnover, secrecy, politics, defensive behavior, and low-grade anxiety that leaks into the customer experience. Bliss is not the opposite of performance. Bliss is the foundation of performance that lasts. So what is bliss? Bliss is when organizations are aligned internally, not just in strategy deck, but in behavior. It is when people do not need to protect themselves from each other. It is when they can disagree without fear. It is when they can admit uncertainty without losing status. It is when they can ask for help without being judged. It is when they can take initiative without needing permission for everything. Bliss is what it feels like when trust is high, clarity is high, and agency is even higher. And here's the punchline. Bliss is not a feeling you hope shows up. Bliss is an environment you engineer. Let me walk you through how to build love into scalable system. It's not a philosophy, but a system. I want you to think of this in 5 practical layers. Let's talk about layer number one, the rules of engagement. Every company has rules, even if they're not written. They show up as who gets listened to, who gets promoted, what happens when someone fails, how conflicts are handled, and whether people feel safe telling the truth. If you want bliss, you have to codify a few non-negotiable and then enforce them consistently. Here are examples of rules that could create bliss. We address issues directly, not through triangulation. We assume positive intent, but we verify through facts. We separate the person from the problem. My grandma always used to say, judge the sin, not the sinner. We give feedback in service of growth, not superiority or flexing. We do not weaponize vulnerability, quite the opposite. We encourage it. We see it as strength. We do not punish people for telling the truth. Most companies say some version of this, but few companies enforce it. Bliss does require enforcement because people do not trust what you say, they trust what you tolerate. Now, layer two, operating rhythms. There is a need for a rhythm. This is where love becomes operational. If you want bliss, you need consistent rhythms that reduce uncertainty and increase alignment. So here's a few examples of rhythms at work. Let's talk about a weekly clarity rhythm that you can implement. Every team answers 3 questions. What did we accomplish last week? What we are committing to this week? And where are we stuck? And what do we need help with? Now, a monthly reflection rhythm could look something like this. What is working? What is not working? What are we avoiding that we need to address? What is one decision we need to make that we keep postponing? And a quarterly alignment rhythm could look like reconfirming priorities, making trade-offs explicit, and killing the work that does not matter, but also recommitting to outcomes, not activity. These rhythms are not meetings for the sake of meetings. They're a trust-building mechanism. They are how you eliminate the mental tax of ambiguity in politics. When people know what matters, what success looks like, and what is safe to say out loud, bliss rises. Now let's talk about layer 3, decision architecture. This is a big one. Most organizations exhaust people not because the work is hard, but because decisions are unclear. People do not know who decides what. They do not know how decisions are made. They do not know what principles guide those decisions. So they hedge, they wait, they lobby, and they protect themselves. Bliss requires clean decision making. Here's a practical model. Clarify decision rights. Define your principles and create fast feedback loops. Okay, what are we talking about decision right? What does that mean? For this category of decision, who is the decider or deciders? Who must be consulted before these decisions are made? And who must be informed? When it comes to principles, what that means is we have a few simple filters that guide trade-offs like customer trust over short-term revenue, long-term brand over short-term optics, simplicity over complexity, learning speed over perfection. Feedback loops mean something like we make decisions, we measure impact, and we adjust quickly. No ego, no shame, just learning. When decision-making is clean, the organization breathes easier. That is bliss. Now let's talk about layer 4, talent practices. This is where love becomes visible. On hiring, onboarding, performance expectation, recognition, growth, exits. If you say you lead with love, but you hire brilliant jerks, you do not lead with love. If you say you lead with love, but you reward politics and heroics, you do not lead with love. If you say you lead with love, but your best people burn out and your worst people stay, you do not lead with love. And you could replace the word love with empathy, because that's one of the most used term in business. It's the same thing. Bliss requires a talent system that rewards the whole game, not just individual output. Here's a simple way to reframe it. We value results and how results are achieved. Some companies think, just get it done, whatever it takes. Well, sometimes whatever it takes is toxic. And the outcome of that is detrimental to the organization. So reframe it. We value results and how results are achieved. So we recognize people who deliver outcomes, elevate the team, tell the truth early, build trust, help others win, and improve the system. And we address behavior that erodes trust even when the person is talented. That is love. Because love protects the many, not the loud. Layer 5, the customer experience alignment. This is the part a lot of leaders forget. Bliss is not only internal, it radiates outward. A company cannot sustainably deliver a caring, trustworthy customer experience if the internal environment is fear-based. Customers can feel that. They can feel it in response times and how issues are handled and whether promises are kept and whether accountability is real. When internal trust is high, customers' trust rises. And that is where business impact becomes obvious. So what business impact should you expect if you build Bliss as a system? I'll give you some practical ideas. First, faster execution. When people trust each other, they stop over-explaining, over-documenting, and over-politicking. Work moves faster. Second, Bliss will lead to better decisions. Truth travels faster. Bad news is reported earlier. Leaders are not operating with filtered information. Third, you'll gain higher retention and lower recruiting costs. People stay where they feel respected and safe to grow. They leave where they feel used, unseen, or constantly anxious. And fourth, higher customer loyalty. When teams are stable and aligned, customers feel consistency, and consistency is trust. And fifth, you're going to have a scalable culture. This one's huge because Bliss is what makes growth feel clean. When love is embedded in systems, the companies do not rely on one charismatic leader to keep the culture alive. The culture reproduces itself. And now, let me bring this back to why it matters more than ever today. We're entering an era where AI can do more tasks that used to be knowledge work. That means the advantage is shifting away from who can do the task and towards who can create the healthiest, fastest learning organism. The winning companies of the future will be the ones that can adapt quickly, learn in public, recover from mistakes without blame, innovate without fear, and align people around purpose, not ego. Bliss is the environment that makes all that possible. And what I want to be direct about here is the following. If your culture is driven by fear, AI will amplify your dysfunction. It will increase speed, but you will crash faster. It will increase output, but you will lose trust quicker. It will automate work, but it will not fix the human system. If your culture is driven by love, AI will amplify your potential because your people will use the time saved to create, to innovate, to connect, to improve the customer experience, and to build community, to build new values. So if you want a practical place to start, here are 3 moves you can make this week. Move number 1, run a truth audit. Ask your team anonymously or in a safe forum, what are we pretending not to know? What conversations are we avoiding? Where do we keep paying the same price over and over? Those are hard conversations to have. But that's your move, number 1, to do a truth audit. Then commit to addressing these one by one. Address one of these truths within 2 weeks. That's how you build momentum. Now, move number 2, Codify 3 rules of engagement and enforcement. Pick 3 behaviors you will protect at all costs, like we address issues directly. We do not blame. We do not punish people for sharing bad news. And then enforce them consistently. Bliss comes from consistency. Finally, move number 3. Create one operating rhythm that reduces chaos. Perhaps it's a weekly clarity check-in, or monthly retrospective, or quarterly priority reset. Pick one and make it sacred. Because most burnout is not caused by work. It is caused by confusion, misalignment, and emotional friction. When you reduce emotional friction, people get their energy back. When they get their energy back, performance rises. When performance rises without fear, bliss becomes real. That is the system. And if you're listening and you lead a team, here's the invitation. Do not wait until your culture breaks to rebuild it. Do not wait until turnover forces you to care. Do not wait until customers feel the impact. Build love into the system now. Make bliss a strategy, not an accident, because bliss is not a nice to have. It is the most undervalued competitive advantage in modern business. Thanks for spending time with me today. If this resonates, share it with someone who leads people, someone who's building a company, and someone who's tired of the old model and ready for a better one. And as always, keep building a business that performs without losing its soul. Thanks for listening to the Bliss Business Podcast. See you next time.